Why, hello, fellow Patriots. Welcome back to the Patriot Dad channel, where we can discuss current events and modern issues, all while keeping it as real as possible. Today, I'm excited to bring to you my reaction to Tucker Carlson on X's sit-down interview with El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. I apologize if I butchered the pronunciation of that name a little bit, but just give me a little bit of leeway. I am not a native Spanish speaker. So, I look forward to this discussion. I have no idea what this sit-down discussion is going to be about, but I've really enjoyed learning more about President Javier Milei, and I've heard great things about President Bukele also. But before we get started on today's video, I'd like to remind you about a promotion that we have going with the rogue dermatologist, Dr. Yuval Bibi. A lot of you have been asking about the Second Amendment eye chart acrylic print that sits behind me in all of my videos. That print was created by the rogue dermatologist. If you follow the promotional link in the description below, eyechart2a.com, it will take you directly to the website. To pick up your own 9x11 rolled poster version of this acrylic print, scroll down, click Add to Cart, click Checkout, and you can see here that the normal retail price for this poster is $20. Enter the promotion code PDPoster, hit Apply, and now you will see that the price is $0. Just cover the cost of shipping and handling. So if you would like to have your very own version of the print that sits behind me, click on that link down in the description and take advantage of this offer today. Don't wait. This is a limited time offer. When the discount is gone, it's gone. Also, feel free to pick up any other items while you're there. And now back to today's video. So let's get it pulled up and let's get right into it, shall we?
Mr. President, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Tucker.
At your Camp David, which is beautiful. So you were inaugurated 2 days ago. This is a small country, and yet your inauguration was international news, was everywhere. Why? Why do you think that is?
Well, it was a shock for us too. I mean, we knew that a lot of people were coming, and I mean that will draw some attention. Of course, we had big delegations from 110 countries. So of course that will draw news, because if a chancellor comes from a country, then he brings his his media team and that will create some news over there. And if a president comes or a king comes, that will create some news. Even you came, so that creates some news. But
why were they coming?
Hey, hang on a second. He literally just compared a president or a king showing up and the kerfuffle that causes to Tucker showing up. That's hilarious, by the way. I also appreciate that this interview is being conducted in English, so that makes it a lot easier. I don't feel like I'm going to miss anything in translation, and it'll be easier to follow and give my own opinion as well. So,
Coming.
Well, I don't know, different reasons, of course. I could ask you, why did you come, right?
I came because I think something remarkable is happening here. That's why. But I'm interested in why you think people came.
Yeah, different reasons. There are definitely different reasons. For example, the U.S. Government sent a big delegation, but then we had also a delegation from Congress.
Yes.
That started as a Republican delegation, but then the Democrats jumped in the wagon, and we had a bipartisan delegation from Congress.
hold up. I'm actually amused. This guy seems super humble. I know nothing about Mr. Bukele at all going into this interview, so I think it's really interesting, but he's taking a very humble approach so far. He's asking Tucker why he showed up. Tucker's like, I just think there's something neat going on. And so far, this conversation kind of seems to agree with that. But it's also interesting how he's pointing out that the US government's delegation showed up, but then also a congressional delegation showed up, and it started off as just Republicans, and then the Democrats jumped on board as well to make it a bipartisan delegation. Are they not all on the same page? Like, I know the answer to that. They're not. Our government is a cluster show, but so far, this guy seems real down to earth. I guess we'll see as the interview goes on, but so far seems like a pretty down to earth, normal guy. So congratulations on winning the presidency.
So, it's like, so it adds up. I don't know at the end what happened, but I think that it's like how a star, how stars are born. They say that the debris starts joining up, and if they become an asteroid. But if more debris joins up, it becomes a planet, because the gravitational pull. The more debris comes up, it becomes a star because then the gravitational pull is too big. So that's called critical mass. So I don't know. Sometimes, just because God wants it like that, or just by stroke of luck or whatever, you get some critical mass in something you're doing, and then it becomes bigger than the sum of all of its parts. So I don't know. Probably got some critical mass that we didn't foresee.
My guess is that of all the countries in the hemisphere, El Salvador seemed in the toughest shape or close to the bottom in the rankings.
Definitely.
For everything.
Yes.
Lacking abundant natural resources, et cetera.
And since the country was born.
Is that true?
Yes. I mean, the country has been poor since it was born. Yeah. Lacking everything, basically.
Lacking everything. With a dense population, a lot of people packed in.
Yeah.
So how did you change it? I guess I'll cut right to it. If you can fix El Salvador, what are the lessons for the rest of us? What did you do first?
Well, of course.
That's actually a really good first question, Tucker. Cutting right to the chase, gotta love it. But yeah, like if El Salvador is coming from nothing and has always been poor and has a lot of people, if you can fix that country, can't you fix any country? Seems to make a lot of sense to me. Let's find out how they plan on doing it.
You cannot do anything if you don't have peace, right? And when I say peace, I include war, civil wars, invasion, crime. I mean, you need to have peace. You need to be able to move freely, to have your basic rights respected.
Yeah, makes sense.
Starting with the right to live, the right to move, the right to have property.
Yeah.
So you need your basic rights to be respected. So you need peace. That's
property
the first
rights.
thing a society will struggle to achieve. And once you achieve peace, then you can struggle for all the other things, like infrastructure, wealth, well-being, quality of life. But you have to start with peace. So
that actually makes a whole lot of sense, because if you don't have peace, you have nothing. You could build bridges, but if you have chaos and war, those bridges are just going to get destroyed. So that makes a lot of sense. I like how he starts with talking about how private property and basic rights are the start of anything. Without those things, you can't have peace, and without peace, you can't have those things. So they are definitely intricately tied together, in my opinion. So it's an interesting perspective. It's a nice start. I agree. They need peace to get anything started. And I don't even think we have that in the States anymore. We really don't. Like, we're not at an actual civil conflict or any kind of, but we are at each other's throats constantly. Figuratively speaking, YouTube reviewer people, figuratively speaking, I'm not advocating violence.
We had to start with peace. And in the case of El Salvador, we were literally the murder capital of the world.
Yes.
And we turned it into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. We're safer than any other country in the Western Hemisphere, which is, it was, if I would have said that 5 years ago, they would say that I was crazy, right?
Yes.
Because this was literally the most dangerous country in the whole world.
Your capital is now safer than our capital in Washington.
Yes.
A lot safer.
And the country is safer than the United States as a whole.
Yes.
The U.S. murder rate is around 6 murders per 100,000 inhabitants, and our murder rate is 2. So we're safer than Canada, safer than Chile, safer than Uruguay, safer than the U.S., safer than any country in the Western Hemisphere. There are countries in the other hemisphere that are safer than El Salvador, but not in the Western Hemisphere.
So you did that in just a couple of years.
Yes, we did that basically in 3 years.
So what?
Please tell us how, because you went from being the murder capital of the world to being the safest country in the Western Hemisphere by the metric of murder per 100,000 people. But that's a pretty good metric if you want to talk about personal safety. So, A, congratulations to El Salvador for making itself a safe country. I'm a little curious if they're going to get into the discussion of how, and I feel like that's going to be Tucker's next question, but let's find out.
Just bottom line it for us. What's the formula?
Well, I can tell you the official formula and the real formula.
Okay.
Oh.
So the official formula is that we did a plan. I mean, we did a plan. It's not. Okay. When I say official, I mean it's a lie. It's just the official one. We did a plan that was comprised of phases. So we roll up the first phase, then the next one, then the next one, and then gangs started attacking back. So we had to roll up everything at once, like in a hurry. So and it worked. It worked. In a couple of weeks, the country was transformed because the gangs were not yet arrested, but they were on the run. So we basically, in the roll-up of Phase 6, we basically pacified the country in a couple of weeks.
How do you do that? How do you pacify a country?
Well,
so like you said, they had a plan. The gangs started fighting back, and then they had to accelerate their plan. Probably because if they had gone with the regular step-by-step method, the gangs would have gotten smart about it and gotten ahead of it. But they just said, nope, we're doing this. The results speak for themselves, but the methods, I don't know whether I'm okay with them or not. I mean, like I said, the results, yes, but what kind of system do you have to have where you can crack down that quickly on that large of a scale and not get innocent people also? Hopefully those people got sorted out afterwards, because to have innocent people in prison just because you want to get the criminals off the street, I don't know if we'd have the appetite for that here in the United States. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Put it in a comment. Let me know what you think.
Well, the phases included building up of the police forces, the army. We doubled the army. We literally doubled the army to fight crime, to use the army to fight crime. And we equipped them. Before, like soldiers, we didn't have like useful guns or vehicles, drones, basic things that an operation of that magnitude would need. So yeah, we roll up the phases and then we went after them.
Okay, so that's the official. That's the official.
Yes, that's the official.
What's the real?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
I love that.
I mean, that's probably true, right? The fact that the gangs didn't get ahead of them, the fact that they were able to get all those guys off the street, the fact that a bunch of people didn't get more seriously dealt with the government, like you see in Mexico happening a lot right now. 37 political candidates in their most recent election were unalived during that process. So I think what he's talking about here is it's a miracle that he is still with us. And I would probably agree, considering the gangs they were going against were some of the world's most dangerous. MS-13 is not a gang that you want to trifle with, whether it's here in the United States or abroad. Ooh, it'll be interesting to see the rest of Tucker's reaction, so let's get to it.
What's the real?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
I love that. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's a miracle. When gangs started attacking us back, basically, they killed 87 people in 3 days, which for a country of 6 million people, it's crazy. Would be the equivalent 60 times. Would be the equivalent of having 5,000 deaths in 3 days, 5,000 murders in the U.S. in 3 days.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So we were in a meeting, and well, when it started, not when it ended, but when it started, we were in a meeting at my office, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., just watching, what was happening and trying to figure out what to do, because the problem with the gangs is that they don't
respect law.
They don't only attack their objective. When they want to create terror, they can attack anyone. So they can actually kill their grandma.
Yes.
And it's your victim.
Yes.
Because they don't care about their grandma. You care about their grandma, so it's your victim. If they kill their grandma, you have one death, and they have...
No, mi abuelo. Not mi abuela, no.
The terror that they want to create.
I think it's abuela, right?
So they can kill anybody. A woman walking by, a guy working in the street, a taxi driver. They can kill anybody.
Chaos.
And if the state goes after them, the state has no intention of killing or harming anybody, but the gang members. So you have 70,000 objectives, which were the 70,000 gang members. But they have 6 million possible targets. So it was...
Hold up. 70,000 gang members? That's over 1% of their population was gang members. I mean, we probably have fairly similar here in the States, to be honest. That'd be like 3.5 million, 4 million gang members. We actually probably have that here. But what would it take to get them all off the street in a couple of weeks? And like you said, once they get smart to it and they start coming after everybody to cause chaos, to slow the process down, like, what does that look like? Miracle's right.
Almost an impossible task.
It's a guerrilla war, really.
Yes, it is, but it was an impossible task because you have to go after them. They were intertwined with the population. They were everywhere, and they were killing randomly. So how do you stop that? So we really tried to figure out what to do, and I basically said, well, we're looking into an impossible mission here. So we prayed.
And yet they did it. Oh.
And
pull up. That was key. What did he say they did? They knew it was an impossible mission that man couldn't do alone. So what'd they do? They did something I don't think anyone in our government would do, at least not openly. They prayed. Appeal to a higher authority, appeal to a higher power. That makes a lot of sense if you're trying to accomplish something that you perceive as impossible. Checks with chart. Seems to have worked.
And we
You prayed in the meeting?
Yes, of course, several times. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. What did you pray for?
To wisdom, to win the war, to have. I thought at the time that we would have civilian casualties, so we prayed that the civilian casualties would be as low as possible, and we didn't have any civilian casualties.
And was everyone in the meeting comfortable with that?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful to hear. Miracles. Yes, absolutely. 0 civilian casualties while scooping up 70,000 gang members. I don't think you could do that here in the US. That's crazy. That's amazing. And the fact that Tucker's like, everyone there was cool with praying during the meeting. And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't you? You get into the separation of church and state debate here, and they want to remove religion as far as possible from the public square. The constant push is to get religion out of everything, to break up the nuclear families, to get everybody dependent on the government. I sense a very large difference in the way that their government still conducts itself and the way ours does. A lot of Latin America is still heavily Catholic, so I guess I'm not too surprised that they prayed during their meeting. Maybe we should start praying more, because I think everybody here in the US also probably needs a little bit more Jesus. And even if you don't believe, and you believe in something else, that's fine. You probably still need Jesus. Just saying.
All my security cabinet are believers. They all believe in God. We're a secular country, of course, but we all believe in God, so yeah.
MS-13 is one of the major gangs.
And they are satanic also.
That was my question. So very
I'm
little...
sorry.
No, but I hope you will explain it, because very little has been written in the West.
I did not know that, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised either. But it's interesting he points out his country is secular, and yet everybody in his cabinet is a believer. Interesting.
About this.
They're satanic, yes.
But actually, literally, can you explain?
Well, they didn't start as a satanic organization. MS-13 started in Los Angeles, in the U.S. Because Salvadorans weren't allowed to sell drugs by the Mexican gangs. So they created a gang that was called the 18th Street Gang, because they basically wanted to sell drugs in a street that was 18th Street over there. But then division started they started dividing themselves and started infighting. So they created the MS-13. And then MS-13 started outgrowing the other gangs, and they started exporting the organization to other parts of the US. And when Bill Clinton decided to deport those guys, he didn't tell our government at the time, I'm deporting this criminal. They just, send them here. And they came, there were few, but unchecked. At the same time,
our government exported MS-13 to El Salvador and did not tell them that it was coming. Does anybody else have any questions still about how evil our government can be? Anybody? How much they lie to us? How much they screw over the rest of the world? Like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing?
There were few, but unchecked. At the same time, some laws were passed to protect minors from imprisonment. And of course, the gangs use that to recruit 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds.
As they
So
do
the
here.
beginning was, some youth causing harm, assaulting, trying to control their territory, selling drugs, things that are bad, but probably not critical. But they grew, and they started controlling territories. A few years later, they were actually a huge international criminal organization that they have bases in Italy, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, the U.S. Basically, a lot of major cities in the U.S. will have strongholds of.
Right outside Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. And you have in Long Island and
yes.
In L.A. It's a huge criminal international organization. So they grew and they started, killing more people just to get territory or to fight against rival gangs or to, collect debts or, money or whatever.
Say it's hard to collect debts from a dead person. Just saying. But like Tucker said, it's really interesting because there's so little really known about MS-13 in the West. But hearing that their origins are from Los Angeles and that we exported them to El Salvador, which then allowed them to grow and then become an international criminal organization is kind of crazy when you think about it. But yeah, recruiting minors to do criminal work is not abnormal in the criminal world. They constantly use minors to conduct all kinds of nonsense because they also know that there's favorable treatment to non-adults. But if you get too out of pocket, they will charge you like an adult. So it doesn't always work out, but in the end, they usually get lighter sentences or no sentences at all if they're a minor. So that's probably why they were allowed to grow the way they were. And it sounds like it was the same way in El Salvador. Let's keep going.
But as the organization grew, they became satanic. They started doing satanic rituals. I don't know exactly when that started, but it was well documented.
Yes.
And in our arrest, we've even found altars and things like that.
Yes, I've seen them.
And
that's crazy.
And so they became a satanic organization. And even when you sometimes when you interview gang members that are in prison, they would say, "I'm out of the gang." Of course, they're in prison, but they would say, "I'm not a member of the gang anymore." And when they asked them why, I remember I remember the news outlet that made it but it's a very well-known news outlet that made this interview with a gang member in person. We allowed them to go into prisons and do the interviews. And the guy they asked him, "How many people have you killed?" And he said, "I don't remember." He didn't remember how many, probably 10, 20. He didn't remember.
Means a lot.
And then they asked him, "And what is your position in the gang?" He explained how he went up in positions, but I left the gang. I said, "Why did you left the gang?" And he said, "Well, because I was used to kill people, but I killed for territory. I killed to collect money. I killed for extortion. But I came to to this house, and they were about to kill a baby." And the killer that had killed tens of people, said, "Oh, wait, what are we doing? Why are we going to kill that baby?" And they told him, "Because the beast asked for a baby, so we have to give him a baby." So he said that he couldn't resist that, so he left the gang. He's in prison because he's a killer, but he left the gang because he couldn't tolerate what he was seeing.
So human sacrifice was a part.
Well, in the United States a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago, I don't remember exactly, I saw the news that they were going to kill a young girl, or they killed a young girl, I don't exactly remember, because it was a satanic ritual. It happened in the U.S.
What? Maybe it's good that I don't know very much about MS-13, but that's crazy. Oh, that's super unfortunate. Interesting, though, that even criminals have some sort of code of ethics, and that usually children are out of bounds. So he left the gang, still ended up in prison, but the beast. If you think that there's not a spiritual war going on in the world, I don't think you're paying much attention. The evils that are constantly perpetrated against us and against other people, how do you explain things that happen in this world if not for evil? Oh. As a believer, I believe I'm on the correct side of that war, and I hope you all are too. Let's keep going.
So that's almost never described
No.
in English language press as clearly as you just described it.
No. Which is weird.
Why?
Right?
Well,
right? Weird.
You sort of wonder why.
Yeah.
If there's a spiritual component that's driving it, why not just say so?
Yes.
But I guess my point is you saw it as that.
Yes, yes, of course. There's a spiritual war and there's a physical war. And the physical war could be, that's the unofficial.
Yes.
That's the unofficial version. The spiritual, if you win the spiritual war, it will reflect into the physical war. So
I do find it interesting that he still felt it necessary to state that that was an unofficial position. But I agree. I think there's definitely a spiritual war going on, and I think we definitely need to win it. And that, as he states here, if you win the spiritual war, it will be reflected in the physical. It's very interesting to hear a head of state talk this way. But like I said previous, a lot of Latin America is very heavily Catholic. It kind of makes me think of what the United States might have been like decades ago, before religion and the family was ripped out of our culture. What do you guys think? I think we need to go back to that. Even without a state religion, it doesn't mean that the people that run this country can't express a religion or have a religious foundation for the decisions they make. I think that the moral framework that Christianity brings is a positive one. So I just really like hearing Bukele talk like this because, well, it's kind of refreshing in a land that is currently so secular and in some ways so evil. But I still have faith. I still think we can turn it around, guys. We just need to do something about it. We can't just stand by and watch it happen anymore.
I think I don't know how to call it, our impressive victory was because we won the spiritual war very, very fast.
Well, that leads me, I didn't
because you didn't have competition. I mean, they were satanic. I think that made it easier.
In your inaugural, and I was listening on headphones for the translation, so I just want to check this. You said, we have achieved this great victory and made this a safe country, and that's the predicate for everything that follows. And the next thing we're going to do in this term is to work on the economy to make it better.
Grow the economy, yeah.
And you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said I have a 3-point plan, and I'm thinking, I wonder what that is. I don't know, start a Federal Reserve Bank? And you said the first point of my plan is seek God's wisdom.
Yes.
That is what you said.
Yeah, I said that, yeah.
Why would that be the first point of an economic plan?
Why wouldn't it be? What should be the first part of the plan?
Well, I think it should be.
Yeah.
But I can't...
And most people would think that, right?
But they're too afraid to say it.
I've never heard any leader of any country say that.
Because they probably forgot to represent the people that elect them. That elects them, yeah.
Oh.
It's like you ask most of the people that elect the politicians, they say, yeah, that's fine, yeah, I believe that. But then you ask the politician, and he will say, no, that's not. So who is he trying to pandering to? I mean,
Oh, that is a really good question, folks. If your representatives aren't representing you, who are they representing? I like Tucker's giggle there. He kind of like a chuckle. He was like, that makes so much sense. It almost doesn't make sense. Like, I completely agree. If most of the constituents would agree with that kind of thinking, if a politician gets to their position and then no longer thinks that way or doesn't represent the people that way, who are they representing? Donors? The banks? Global organizations? Who? Like who, if not for the constituents? Who are your representatives representing? If it isn't you, you shouldn't vote for them again. Like, definitely not. Great start, though.
it makes sense, right?
Do you
So
think...
it's a common sense thing to seek God's wisdom.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a prerequisite for wise decision making,
Yes,
I would say.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of our plan.
I don't know why it makes me laugh.
Because
Do
it
you
makes
think
sense.
that that's one of the reasons that your successes, which are just measurable, I'm not saying this for ideological reasons, but just a fact that you've transformed the country in a good way and that you're literally the most popular elected leader in the world, again, not speculation, provable fact.
As he should be.
You'd think that would be greeted in the hemisphere as this amazing thing, like what's going on in El Salvador, and instead there's been this, what's going on in El Salvador?
Yeah.
There's been hostility.
Yes.
Do you think that's why?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but one of the reasons is that we don't pander to them. So probably they don't like that. It's probably.
You don't pander to them, but also, if there is a spiritual warfare component, I would argue that the majority of the world is probably controlled by the devil. So if you're in a spiritual war and you're reflecting that your first step is to seek God's wisdom, you are going to be contrary to the majority of people in charge in this world, because the people that tend to get into those positions of power seem to be people that do wrong things. So if evil tends to get people in power more often, it shouldn't be very surprising that when you come to power and you represent good or God, that you'd probably meet a little bit of resistance. I don't know, what do you guys think? Makes sense to me. This is very refreshing to listen to, by the way.
Probably a reason. It's like there's I'm not going to go into conspiracy theory. I'm going to go into provable facts, right?
Please, come on.
Like you said. So there's worldwide agendas, right? These are provable facts, right? They have benchmarks that they need the countries to follow and they need the countries to do. This is, out there, right? But sometimes if you work on those things, you're probably neglecting the important things for your people, the things that your people are really asking for.
Probably, yeah. Makes sense.
When we arrested the gang members that were killing so much people that we were the murder capital of the world, literally the most dangerous place in the whole world, more dangerous than Haiti, right? More dangerous than Iraq.
And in Haiti, they eat
literally the most dangerous country in the world. We have triple the amount of the murder rate that Haiti has right now. With all the mayhem that they have, we have tripled that here.
What?
So what do we have to? What do you have to do? You have to stop that, right?
Yes.
I mean,
now.
It's a no-brainer. I mean, you don't have to. You don't even need to have a big thought process. You have to stop.
Hang on, real quick, before we get any further. I'm going to take a guess. The pushback he got from the globalists is that your incarceration rate is too high. What do you guys think? Do you think that's what the resistance was? You can't lock all those people up. That's my guess, because I know they always crap on the United States for our incarceration rate. So I don't know. What do you guys think? That's my guess for what their resistance was. Let's see.
That's the first thing you have to do. When we did that, we got huge condemnations. You name it.
For what?
Say an organization, we got a condemnation from them.
Come on.
So
Say it.
And a lot of them were human rights organizations. And you would ask, but what about the human right of a woman not to be raped?
Yes.
I mean,
what about
what
that?
about the human right of kids to play or to be free or to go to the park?
Yes.
And what about the human right to live, or the human right to walk in the street?
No,
right?
They defend criminals.
But no, they were worried about the human rights of the killers, which they have human rights. I don't say they don't. They're humans.
That is interesting though, because you tend to see a lot of that here as well. A lot of the criminals are getting defended by NGOs and other organizations about their rights and what they deserve and how they're being mistreated and all that. So very similar things are happening here in the United States right now with the criminal alien issues that we have in our cities and at the border. It's all about human rights. You must be compassionate. You must respect their rights. Don't worry about the victims of these people. It's more, what are their rights? So it's interesting to see the parallels here, because that's exactly what he's saying about their criminals. The human rights organizations were wondering about the criminals' human rights, not about the rights that were being impacted by those criminals before they were incarcerated. So NGOs, you're very consistent, apparently, even overseas. So good job. Keep defending criminals. What are we doing, guys?
But if you have to prioritize, what will you prioritize?
Innocence.
Right? The human rights of the honest, hardworking, decent people, not the human rights that they do have. But you won't prioritize the human rights of the killers and rapists and murderers.
Nope.
And so we secured the country, and we did it with no help from any other country, and with huge condemnation in everything that we were doing. Everything. I mean, we changed the Attorney General. We got so much condemnation because we changed the Attorney General that we need to change to prosecute the murderers. So we basically.
I mean, if the existing Attorney General didn't want to prosecute murderers, I could understand why you would replace him. That makes sense to me.
They tried to block every step of what we were doing. And now.
And you know what, guys? I think to get the right result, we just have to be comfortable with that fact. Don't worry about what their opinion is. If you're doing the right thing, just do the right thing. Don't worry about being condemned for it. Don't worry about this and that. The left has never cared about the condemnation of the right, and they continue to push their agenda. Why should we be any different? The communists always say, by any means necessary, and that the ends justify the means, and yet we aren't allowed to say the same thing. Maybe we should start taking a page out of their book. However, doing it for the right reasons and for the right goals. I don't know, what do you guys think? That makes more sense to me than not.
Now, it's that the results are there, that it's, you know, they're tangible, measurable, undeniable. Now they don't know what to do. Because a lot of other countries are saying, maybe a lot of other countries similar to ours that have similar problems, they are saying maybe we should do that too.
Yeah.
But they don't want that because that's not in their agenda.
But I guess that's why I came here, to be totally honest, is what your success says about the country that I live in or other countries in the hemisphere or in Europe where people are killed by the thousands every year. And what you've proven with very little money and no help from anyone else is it's not that hard to fix. Therefore, all that killing must be a voluntary decision that my government and many other governments are making about their own citizens.
You can make that logical.
Well, I don't know what other conclusion to reach. If El Salvador can do it, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I think this is where he was saying he wants to avoid the conspiracy theory, but I agree. If El Salvador can fix it on a short time scale with very little money, why is it allowed to continue here? Why is it allowed to continue anywhere? These NGOs and all these people that are donating to our politicians, how much damage are they actually doing? Because if these are all issues that we could have fixed decades and decades ago, if we had had the willpower to do it and the leadership to get it done, we could have avoided how many thousands, how many tens of thousands, how many hundreds of thousands of deaths could have been avoided? How many? Sometimes I just don't want to think about things like this because then it really just upsets me. And what are we getting out of it? Our politicians are going to office and they are not representing us. And then we vote in new ones or we don't, because most of the time the same politicians get reelected because of name recognition, but we keep sending new people or the existing people back to Congress and nothing changes. Why? Who are they representing, folks? That's the real question I have after this interview so far, is who are our representatives actually representing? That's a question we should ask ourselves. Makes almost too much sense.
Oh.
Well, I don't know what other conclusion to reach. If El Salvador can do it, what's going on here?
Yes, you can make that logical conclusion. I think that's probably what they are afraid of. Because, I mean, we don't have weapons of mass destruction, right?
No.
So why are they afraid? Why would they take so much time in make condemnations to El Salvador, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you didn't send a man to the moon.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think they're afraid of the example.
Did we?
Because a lot of people might say, hey, we want that too. If they can do it with no money, with very few resources, and with a huge problem, because I heard some people say, oh, well, somebody could do it because the problem was not that big. I'm like, we're literally the murder capital of the world. How bigger can it get, right? We were literally the most dangerous place in the world, 3 times more dangerous than Haiti right now. So,
that's
I mean, what bigger how bigger can the problem get? And at the same time,
not much.
We had very few resources. And we were able to do it with no civilian casualties. After we started the war on gangs, we had no civilian casualties. And
which is great.
We lost 8 between police officers and soldiers. And we basically eradicated all crime.
8.
So
and we arrested 70,000 gang members.
Whoa. Which
the number is not a number that just came up. That's the official number that all the organizations said we had of gang members. And you can watch the World Bank reports, etc. They said El Salvador has around 70,000 gang members.
They were able to arrest 70,000 gang members with 8 law enforcement fatalities and no civilian casualties. What is happening in the rest of the world? Why is all of this crime allowed to persist? Just incarceration. People that have voluntarily stated they don't belong in society anymore by committing violent crime, let's just do them the favor of removing them from society. That makes a lot of sense to me. Society will be safer if you take the dangerous people out of it. Yep. Yep, makes sense.
500,000 collaborators. So we spared the collaborators, basically, and we only got the gang members. Why? Because most of the collaborators were just, family members,
Yes.
or, the woman that sell tortillas, and she had to tell, oh, the police is coming, because if not, she would probably have been killed by the gang. So most of the collaborators were not really criminals,
Yes.
but just people living in a society that was controlled by gangs. The government the real government was the gangs. Just like in Haiti, you have a fake government and you have the real government. The government in Haiti is the gangs. It was like that. You had a formal government, of course, with offices and everything, but you have the real government in the territory, which were the gangs.
So, I mean, and I know you want to stick to the facts, but I mean, at some point you do have to, this is a really important question. Why would a government that has the means to end violent crime, not all, there's always going to be crime, people breaking laws, but violent crime, people murdering and raping each other is a voluntary decision that a government makes. Why would a government choose to have that?
I don't know. I don't know. I can make up theories, but I really don't.
But you have a gut instinct about it?
I think it's a combination of factors, like everything.
Yes.
They might be evil people that that are doing it on purpose, of course.
Could be.
And probably planning stuff. I don't know.
Yes. Possible.
Yeah, possibly. At the same time, there's a lot of people that they just being fed these ideologies, and they think they're doing the right thing.
Yes.
Right, like allowing shoplifting, for example.
Yes.
That's the most stupid thing you can think of. But they do it.
Oh, you don't allow shoplifting here?
No, of course not. So
we do here.
But you would think, why would anybody think allowing shoplifting would be a good idea?
I don't know.
Why? I mean, that's the stupidest thing to think, right?
Good question.
Or giving away drugs. I said this in an interview. Or giving away drugs. Let's give away drugs, right? It's like very stupid things. And you would guess that some of the people enacting these policies are not necessarily evil. They're just, they've been fed this ideology. They think they're doing the right thing. It's like,
the road to hell is paved with good intentions, folks. Handing out government-funded crack pipes in Canada? Bro, that is not good. Handing out clean needle kits in the States? Also, not good. Condoning it? Oh, don't worry, you didn't steal more than $1,000 worth of stuff from CVS. It's fine, you can go. Like, it's madness, people. That kind of permissive treatment of criminality is just unacceptable. It just breeds more criminality. What are we doing?
An example. I think a month ago or something like that. Yeah, like a month. The Spanish police arrested a gang member that had fled El Salvador. So the gang member escaped. He flew. He went to Spain, and with an international operation between the police of our police and the Spanish police and Interpol, they were able to arrest the guy. So in those cases, you need to do an extradition because it's an automatic, international operation. So they just get the guy, process him and send him.
Yes. Send
him to the original police for they file the claim. So the Spanish police was very proud of the arrest. So they put it up in Twitter. So they said, we just arrested this gang member. So I quoted the tweet, and I said, great, send him, we'll take care of him, right? So that was used in his court hearing in Spain as a proof that he wouldn't get a fair trial here. So he was protected by Spanish laws, and he stayed there in Spain.
Oh, they can keep him.
Maybe they don't have enough gang members in Spain.
Exactly. So, I don't care if they want to keep him. It's a mouth that we don't have to feed. It's a mouth that we don't have to feed, right? Yes. But so they can keep him. But the thing is that you would think, why would the Spanish government want an extra gang member?
Yeah. Yes.
And it's not necessarily out of evil. It's just that the laws, the system, the things that are being fed to the judge, to the prosecutor. So they think that that my tweet was too mean, and this gang member.
Wait. Where have I heard criticisms of mean tweets before? Like literally, this whole conversation is just about common sense. Except None of these government organizations or governments seem to be operating with common sense, because apparently common sense is not common anymore. So far, it's super refreshing to hear. I've really enjoyed this conversation so far. It just makes sense. We got to get these crazies out of our ears. Stop listening to these NGOs. Stop listening to these progressives and these soft on crime people, and just start taking care of the problem. Makes sense.
His rights will be, not respected. He wouldn't get a fair trial in El Salvador, so he had to stay in Spain to be protected. I mean, they know he's a killer. They actually arrested him because of that. It was an international operation and everything. They know he probably murdered dozens of people, but they feel the need to protect him.
So what's sad about that is that that's a sign that your defense mechanism no longer works.
Yes.
And that your society is dying.
Yes.
And Spain is in my opinion, a
Western
wonderful
civilization is reaching a point into it will start failing.
Yeah. I think that's obvious to those of us with great sadness, to those of us who live here.
Unless things are done, of course. You can always do
So,
stuff
okay, two-part question. Why do you think that's happening? Because it is recognizably happening in real time before us. And what can be done at this point to reverse it?
Well, everything erodes and degrades. I mean, that's just laws of nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we do. That's why we die. We age and we die.
Entropy.
I mean, you can slow it, right? You can, stay fit, diet.
Yeah.
I mean, you eventually gonna age and die. You cannot avoid that. Same happens with anything. Infrastructure. I had an argument with at the beginning of the government. I had an argument with my Ministry of Public Works, my Minister of Public Works, because there was this neighborhood that was built in an area that you shouldn't build things. So there was a mountain. Almost the soil was basically flour. So it was the mountain was falling and the houses were falling with the mountain. So to save the people, the Ministry of Public Works started building a huge wall, to stop the houses from falling, right? So they were building this huge wall, and of course I can't micromanage everything. So when I saw the wall being built, I called my minister. I said, "What are you doing? And you won't stop the mountain." And I said, let's build houses for the people somewhere else. It would be cheaper, and he said, no, the wall will be fine. We have engineers from international corporation and everything. It will be fine. So they finished the wall. They inaugurated thing. It didn't fall. Don't worry. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for that plot twist. But I was still angry because I thought that it was a huge waste of money and a lot of risk. That if in the future the wall falls, it'll be on us because we built it, right? Of
course.
So I started pressuring him. Why did you build that wall? Why do you build that wall? If the wall falls in the future, it would be our fault. And I thought he grew tired of me pressuring. He said, well, everything that is made by humans needs maintenance. I mean, of course, if we just leave the wall there, it'll fall in 10, 20, 30 years. But if we give maintenance to the wall won't fall, right? So
how many of his friends do
that stuck on me, not because
work?
of the wall itself, but because everything is like that.
Yes.
In a relationship,
yes, that's
a plant, at home. I mean, everything
needs maintenance.
Your haircut. You need, if you want to maintain it, you need to spend time and resources and effort in maintaining it.
Did he just take a dig at Tucker's hair? But the crazy thing is, Bukele is correct. If that wall ever fails, it will be the government's fault. And you have now signed the government up, also known as the people and the taxpayers, to maintain that wall into infinity instead of just build them a home somewhere else. But then that comes with its own liabilities. Now we built the homes. If those homes ever have issues, they're going to blame us. Is there really any winning these kinds of things? Sometimes it feels like the answer to that's no.
So Western civilization, because civilizations go like this.
Yes.
So Western civilization reached the peak. I cannot point exactly where the
90s.
peak is. It's like timing the market, right?
Yes.
I'm going to buy in the bottom and I'm going to sell at the top. Nobody can do that.
That would be nice.
And so I don't know exactly where was the peak,
The 90s.
but we can all agree that we're in the decline.
Yes.
So that is happening because we're not giving the correct maintenance to the civilization. What made the West the leader in the world at the time we're living right now? What caused that to happen? A lot of things, like,
Strong families.
importing the scientific process, started, developing science,
Yes.
Focusing, putting a lot of money into art, into science, into trying to build the best things and as fastest and as best and as great as possible. And, importing wisdom and technology and trying to develop new technology and trying to, but suddenly when you get wealthy, happens with families too.
Yes, it does.
Then people probably get spoiled, or they get, I want more things. I want that. I want this.
Yep.
You have to provide me that. And politicians. The problem. I mean, democracy is great, right? The U.S. has proven that democracy can work.
Republicanism, but sure.
But the problem with democracy, because everything has pros and cons. The problem with democracy is that politicians have a great incentive to offer
Free stuff.
to give away the treasury.
Yep.
Yes.
So if I say no, I'm going
And that's part of why democracies always fail and why we see a constant push to make us a democracy. We are not supposed to be a democracy, folks. We are supposed to be a representative republic for a reason. That reason is exactly what he is saying right now. Politicians just promise free shit from the public treasury, and they keep getting more power and more votes, and they keep promising more free shit. You'll see we have over $100 trillion of unfunded liabilities. That was the government promising free shit to people that they could not afford to give, but doing it to gain more and more power. That's where the decline comes from, folks. Giving away free stuff that we can't afford to give away to people who haven't earned it nor deserve it. We need to change it. It's not sustainable.
to keep the treasury because we might need it, for an emergency or something. Nobody would like that. People would like, oh, I'm going to give away the treasury. So they would vote for him. Then another politician, you know what? I'm going to give the treasury plus another treasury. So we're going to go into debt, right?
Two
Everybody will
treasuries.
say, great, let's receive more money from the treasury. And when I say treasury, I mean, anything, building stuff, giving free stuff, sending checks to people.
COVID relief.
Yeah, exactly. Getting
Yep.
stimulus, whatever. So the politicians have the incentives of just giving away the treasury and entering huge amounts of debt.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that.
And that doesn't not only destroys the structure of the government, but it also destroys the structure of society. Because if you give, for example, money, okay, if you don't work, I give you money, right?
Why would you do that?
If you
Why?
if you can shoplift $1,000 a day and still get some money from the government for food, housing, why would you work in that store that we shoplifted and probably get in trouble, right?
I had never actually done the math in my head, but if you allow someone to steal $1,000 a day, that would be $365,000 a year. Hopefully you're claiming that on your taxes, because otherwise the IRS is coming for you. But they would make like 3 times what I make and be a criminal, but not really a criminal because they just get let go. Why would you work? Why would I work? If I could just, with no problems, just go get $250,000 a year and just be under the radar and everything's fine. Oh, don't worry. The insurance companies pay for it. Oh, don't worry. It'll be okay. No one actually gets harmed by theft, right? Just rich people. The guy stealing $365,000 a year, he's rich. He's almost a top 1%er through theft. Like, I don't know why, but I had never done that mental math before. That's crazy.
Right. So the incentives are wrong, but it's not only because, maybe they are, but I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories, but it's not only because there are evil politicians or evil people planning everything, which might be the case, but I won't go into that. But just because things, the incentives are wrong.
Yes.
So even
But not only are the incentives wrong, Like, we're not just not incentivizing the correct behavior, we are actively incentivizing the wrong behavior. So it's worse than just not incentivizing properly. We're incentivizing like 180 degrees wrong. We are incentivizing people to not work. We are incentivizing the nuclear family to break up. We are incentivizing people to become more dependent on the government instead of freer and more independent. Like, it's crazy, folks. Crazy.
Even a normal, not evil politician has the incentive to give away the treasury because he needs the votes. I mean, he needs to be elected. That's what he needs, right? He needs the votes.
It's the nature of the system.
Yes, it's the nature of the system. So the problem is that democracy works. Nobody can say it doesn't because it worked in the United States, right? But if you don't maintain, if you don't give maintenance to the system,
and keep your
it
culture
will
going.
fall like the wall if you don't give maintenance to it. Because the same system will degrade itself. So what you're having right now is a huge erosion of Western civilization. So we have governments pandering to their bases, to their ideology because they mobilize the vote or whatever, looking at what will happen in the election, what we can do to get more votes in the election. I don't want to get into U.S. politics because it's not my. But
well, actually,
so we had
Are you
we had
sure?
this huge voter group. Let's give them something to get their vote. Let's give them, I don't know, $100,000 each. It makes sense, right? To get their votes. But it doesn't make sense for a country. I mean, why would you give $100,000 to each member of a voting group? Right? It should be illegal. But it's not because who makes laws, right? It's the government.
Yeah.
So the system is eroding. And if if the maintenance team doesn't go in and fix all the things that have been, degrading the last 50, 70 years, it will eventually fall.
We'll see if Tucker asks a follow-up, but my follow-up to you is, what do you guys think that maintenance is? What do you think that looks like? What do you think we need to do to maintain a representative republic and to maintain a healthy culture and a healthy populace? What do you think is involved in maintenance of an entire society? It's not something I've thought on much. Maybe I'll think on it a little more, because we really need more people to think about stuff like that, because we need to implement it to keep this system going. If we don't, it's going to continue to degrade itself, and it's going to continue to just get worse.
So if the West doesn't continue to maintain its systems, which you have said, I think correctly, have worked really well for a couple hundred years,
exactly.
They will degrade just like anything else made by human hands.
Yes.
If you don't maintain it, it will fall.
Makes
like
sense.
Your house. The question is, does anyone in the West, do its leaders have the will to fix the system that is clearly failing? Do you think that will happen? And if it doesn't, what is the message about democracy to the rest of the world?
Well, the fun thing about anything, about any concept like democracy, that it works until it doesn't, right?
Right, that's right.
It happened with monarchies, it happened with anything, right? They say things like, we have to separate religion from state. It worked. It really worked. But it also worked religion with the state at their time.
Yes.
So
very well.
Yes, very well, until it didn't. So the thing is that things work until they don't, right?
By definition.
The problem is not democracy. I mean, it's not the concept of democracy. The concept of democracy is great. I mean, imagine the power of the people. Why would the people have the power to decide their own things? It's like the most, I really like the concept. And it's not only a theoretical concept like communism, right? It works. I mean, democracy has been proven to work.
Yeah.
George Washington could have been a king if he wanted to.
Yes.
He could have been King George I, right?
Yes.
But he decided, well, not he, but the founding fathers decided that the United States would be a democracy, right? And it worked. Nobody can say it didn't. It worked. But so the fact that democracy appears to not be working, I don't think it's because the concept doesn't work, like church separated from a state or church conjoined with the state.
Yes.
It's just that things work until they don't. So the problem, I think, is not the concept of democracy itself, but the state of the democracy, of democracies in the world right now.
Which is interesting because one of the main arguments you always hear from the left about why our system should change is that democracy doesn't work. I think Bukele's onto something here, though, where democracy does work, it's just without proper maintenance, and if you allow it to degrade, it will appear to stop working. And when it stops working, you can point at it and say, look, it no longer works. But instead of saying honestly that it no longer works and used to, you just say it doesn't work. And that's your argument for destroying the system and rebuilding it with something else. Now, the current push is for communism to replace capitalism and democracy. I don't think that will be a change for the better. I think we'd be better off finding out what that maintenance requirement is and performing our preventative maintenance and restoring democracy and our republic to the state that it should be in. You got to remember, the United States really has been the shining light and the beacon for the world. We have developed so many new technologies in the United States that the world would have otherwise not had. Some of these aren't necessarily the best for mankind, nuclear weapons definitely being one of those, and nuclear power for civilian purposes. This has brought a great amount of energy to the world at fairly low environmental impact. So I'm really enjoying this so far. Let's keep going.
Have we reached the end of the democratic period?
I don't know, but it's maybe the beginning of the end. If a huge maintenance team doesn't come and fix things, it's like this is not about geopolitics or anything. I'm not going to even mention the countries, but I saw somebody showed me the 600-meter railway that was built in California, and it cost like $15 billion or something like that to build the 600-meter piece of railway.
Good job, Newsom.
That they were building.
It's a lot per meter.
Yes. So, I mean, you cannot go on. I mean, it's like obvious. It's like somebody eats too much, right? I mean, you can be a little fat, right? It's fine. But then if somebody's morbidly fat, somebody will come and say, okay, I mean, you have to stop, right? Because
common sense again.
Your heart can't take it anymore. Right, you have to stop. Or somebody that drinks. I don't drink, but if somebody drinks, doctor might say, your liver
is failing.
Your liver can't take that.
Please
anymore.
stop.
Look at your liver, how it is right now, or the lungs,
cirrhosis,
or smoker, whatever.
Yep.
When you see things like that, 600 meters of railway, $15 billion, 10 years. There's no other possible diagnosis. I mean, you have to stop that fast now, because if not, the decline is inevitable. It's inevitable. I mean, it's already there. It's not like I'm telling you, I foresee. No. I mean, it's there. I mean, it's $15 billion to make a 600-meter piece of railway that's not even working.
Look, I grew up in California, having grown up there in the 80s and 90s and leaving there in the 2000s and then going back in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Like, that place has changed so much over the decades and for the worse. And he's right. It's been so mismanaged. It needs to stop now before that place just dies. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable at all. And it's definitely a symptom, because the old saying is how California goes, so does the rest of the US. Just takes a few more years. I hope we're not following in California's footsteps at this point, because it is a disaster.
In 10 years, the Empire State was built in a year. 1 year, they built the Empire State. Things were working, right? I don't know how were things back then. I don't know, but they built the Empire State in 1 year. What happened with the World Trade Center, Freedom Tower, they was changed the name that later to World Trade Center. How long did it take?
Forever.
Yeah. And it was, the whole country united to build it. There was no budgetary, I mean, I know it was private, but it was no, if it needed budgetary, it was not a problem of budget or investors willing to pour money on it or engineers. I mean, why would it take over a decade to build something that was so significant for the whole country? I mean, you could build the tallest building in the world. You didn't.
Because our
system
is
You could have built the tallest building in the world and said,
broken.
okay, we're coming back bigger and stronger. We're going to build, we got a hit, but now we're going to build back better and stronger, build back better and stronger, right? Or whatever. And build it, 2-mile-high skyscraper. I'm not a fan of 2-mile-high skyscrapers, but you could have done that. I mean, you have the money, you have the resources, you have the engineers, you have the market.
Do we?
Because if I built a mile skyscraper, I can fill with offices because I don't have enough market to fill with residences and offices or whatever. You do have the market in New York to to build offices, and you want hotel rooms. I mean, it would feel like this, but you didn't. You took over a decade to build a very unimpressive building. So, and that.
I like that little dig. A very unimpressive building. He's not wrong, though. Like, what happened to our engineers? What happened to our construction people? What happened? Built the Empire State in a year. Probably cut a lot of corners and did a lot of dangerous shit, but it's still standing. Built it in a year. Now we're taking decades to build stuff, and it barely functions, and it doesn't last. Bridges over roadways that collapse on the roadway mid-construction. What is happening in our schools? What happened to our good architects and engineers? Where are they? Are they too busy studying gender studies and whatever? Like, what is happening? It's interesting seeing this outside perspective because it's a common sense approach, but it's an honest perspective from an outsider, from a different country. And he's looking at our country and going, what is happening? It doesn't make any sense. You guys were so great. You have the resources, you have the people, you have the means. Where is the will? Why is it not being done? Yeah.
That was 23 years ago.
Yes.
Yep.
Now you're building 600-meter railways with $15 billion. So,
Straight to jail.
how long it would take to rebuild the Baltimore Bridge? It should take a year.
How long would it take here?
Here?
Yeah.
A year. 2 years. And we're a small, poor country. I mean, we're one of the poorest nations in the world, right?
No, that's why this is so shameful and interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the U.S. has so
Yeah.
they have still unlimited amounts of resources because you can just print money, right? That's another topic, but you can just print whatever. How much it's worth? I mean,
Can you?
If you want to do it, but we want to build it made of gold. I mean, you can do anything, right? You just, how much is it? Do it.
So that sounds like a systemic failure. It doesn't sound like...
It's a systemic failure.
Yeah. So what you're describing maybe can't be, maybe that's something that you have to level and rebuild or something. Maybe that's beyond maintenance. I don't know. What is the answer to that?
I don't know, but well, you need leadership. But
Yes.
I'll tell you something. If you see the mess that we were living here,
Yes.
it's a bigger mess than what you have over there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, just the fact that a third of our population fled the country and went to the United States
I know.
gives you an example that the mess we were living here,
A
and that we
third?
still have in other areas that, not safety, we're the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, but we have problems in other areas, like the economy, for example.
Yeah.
So, but our problems were bigger than your problems in relative sizes.
But wait, if a third of their people left to come to the United States, how do they rebuild their economy? Like, with what labor force? With what intellectual pool do you pull from if a third of your population just left? And at what point do they try and come back to help? Or do they? Like, are they just forever gone? Are they never going to return to El Salvador? Because that would be unfortunate for the future of El Salvador. A third. Like, dang. That is a lot.
So you said
So
that
if you can fix a mess like this in the U.S. with a limited amount of wealth, with scientists, innovation like no other country in the world. Still, the innovation is coming from the U.S. It's more than any other country. Still, right?
Somehow,
Even
miracle.
Not because of the government, but it has the best innovators, AI.
for sure.
I mean, anything. So you still have the best innovators. You still have the biggest companies. You still have the world reserve currency.
For now. For now.
The biggest wealth, the biggest GDP.
For now.
The availability to hire talent from anywhere. You can bring whatever talent you need to fix any gaps. You can pick any. You get it. You get what you want. You still can get what you want. You can't get attacked because you're
Too far away.
you're too far away from anyone
Yeah.
that wants to attack you, because Mexico or Canada are not going to attack the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your enemies are too far away, and you still have the biggest army, the biggest armed forces.
Yeah, it's like basically all the advantages.
Biggest energy reserves in the
Yes,
world.
and yeah, and the U.S., like Russia, they were built as superpowers. So it's not like, for example, if you see the economy in Spain, it's very good. It's a robust economy. It's big, G7.
Yeah.
But I wonder what they make.
But they are like.
What do you make, Spain?
How you say in English, turrón, nugget? They sell nugget, right?
Yeah.
Or they sell Iberic ham.
Yeah.
So it's very good, expensive, but you don't actually need that.
Right.
So
Luxury goods.
luxury goods.
Okay.
So if you sanction Spain, you'll break their economy. But if you sanction Russia, you can't break Russia, because they are built as a superpower.
We've
Yes.
tried.
So they have wheat, they have energy, they have natural gas, oil.
Yes.
Because they were built like that.
Industrial capacity.
Industrial capacity, factories, workers.
Makes sense.
So the U.S. is like that too. It was built as a superpower. So you have wheat, you have corn, you have workers, you have blue-collar workers, you have trained, skilled factory workers. You have.
You know what? That's something that I also never really thought about too much. I guess that's just the privileged position of being somebody from the United States, but he's correct. We have all of the resources in the United States. All of them, pretty much. Like, I can't think of one we don't actually have or that we couldn't get access to if we had the will to do so. But a lot of these other countries around the world, they don't have that. So they rely on either luxury goods or a single type of agriculture or who knows what else. But yes, we have so much potential here, and yet we squander it ourselves. We keep ourselves from taking advantage of it. But then we look at other countries and wonder why they don't do what we do. But it's not really an even playing field, is it? We're very fortunate here. We should take advantages of the resources we have. And yet we keep choosing not to for the environment or for many other reasons. But it's interesting to get this outside perspective. I'm really enjoying this.
You have colleges, you have universities, you have a school system, you have infrastructure, you have cities, tourism.
Not an enviable
Mississippi
school
River.
system.
I mean, you have everything. You have ships, you have warehouses, agriculture, fertile lands.
Yep.
What you didn't have before you got, right? You took from Mexico or whatever. So the U.S. was built to be a superpower,
Yep.
right? Acquire land, acquire fertile lands, Texas was part of Mexico, but it's part of the U.S. and you have all the oil there. So, and then you have California. And the U.S. is built as a superpower. So
Coast
the
to
U.S. has
coast.
everything to go on for 1,000 years. It's not like it's doomed to
If
fail.
it wants to.
But apparently the leaders, or most of them, you have probably very good leaders, but most of the leaders, they're not seeing it. Either they are evil, or this is not a conspiracy theory. It's just the options you have. Either they're evil,
Yep.
and they want to destroy the U.S. because of some evil reason,
Yep.
or they're puppets, and they are being handled by people that need the U.S. to be destroyed for some reason.
Okay. Also
Or
a
they're
possibility.
And they just, doing wrong stuff because they're not capable of doing the right stuff.
I think in general, we like to say they're incompetent, but I don't really think most of the people in power are incompetent. I think they're much more competent than they let on. They let us think that they're incompetent and blame their incompetence because it's an easy excuse that permits them to do evil things or to do the bidding of somebody not us. Because we can discount it and go, oh, our representatives are just dumb. Oh, we'll try to vote for another guy maybe, and then we won't. Instead of being like, no, these people are directly representing people that are not us, the constituents. We should fix this immediately. And we do need to fix it immediately, guys. Our politicians are not representing their constituents anymore. They just aren't. They're representing big business. They're representing NGOs and interests overseas. They're representing communists. Like, who knows? They're just representing other people, not us. We should do something about it.
Or, sorry, I said three, but the incentives, right? changing a country and changing a lot of things that are badly done probably will anger some people, right? Some groups, some lobbies, some interests. I mean, if you say, okay, we're going to stop the railway that's costing us $15 billion per 600 meters, a lot of companies will be angry, a lot of, I don't know, mayors.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a system that needs to be handled. So, and that needs leadership, and it needs a clear mandate that is probably a little hard to get in the U.S. because of, the opposite views and the bipartisanship. And,
clear mandates don't really exist anymore.
It, right?
Well, ultimately, as you well know, since you've succeeded in it so thumpingly, the instrument for all of that is the ballot, is the election itself. Like, how many votes do you get? That's your mandate.
Yeah.
But I think there is a sense among a lot of non-conspiracy-minded voters in the United States that that part of the system is itself corrupt.
Yes.
And that it is actually hard to affect change through voting because it's rigged. And so with that in mind,
or it's perceived as
Trump,
rigged.
he's ahead in the polls. Do you think he can get elected?
Well, yes, he can get elected. Yeah. I'll give you an example.
He can. Now, will he?
In 2019, the system was totally rigged. I mean, they canceled our party. I mean, we were running with a party, and they canceled it. I mean, they annulled our party. So I was partyless. So we went to a small party and said, you don't have any candidates, you're very small, do you want to win the election? So we got that party registration, and they canceled that party. Yeah. And they canceled that party in the last day that you can file the candidacies. So we got a medium-sized party at 11 p.m., and we were able to file our candidacy.
Third time's the charm.
It was not like it was easy or the system wasn't rigged. It was just so fair that we just, we put up our proposals and the people just voted. It was very hard to win. And then when we won, since we didn't have simultaneous parliamentary elections, we actually went to the executive branch, totally opposed to the legislative branch and the judicial branch. So they control the Supreme Court, and they control 90% of the legislative body.
Wow.
So I had to veto everything, and they override my vetoes, and they approved over 70 laws that I veto. Yes, and everything that we do, Supreme Court, is unconstitutional. Yeah. So we went to the people and said, we cannot work like this. We need a majority in Congress. We need a huge majority in Congress because we not only need to approve laws, we need to get all these people out. And the only way to get it out democratically and respecting the rules of the system is that if we get a huge, immense majority in Congress, right? Because Congress can fire anybody, even the president.
Yes.
And?
So people gave us the huge majority. And it was hard because they still control the Electoral Tribunal as of today. That's why our election was recognized by all the countries in the world. Because they know the Electoral Tribunal is controlled by the opposition. Still,
it's the only thing that's controlled.
It's the only thing, and we have liberalized. So that validates and legitimizes everything else. So but the thing is that in 2021, when we went to congressional elections, we carried a supermajority.
Nice.
That they said it was impossible, because the system was designed so you cannot get a supermajority. But we got more than that.
Until the people get upset.
And then with that supermajority, there's an article in the Constitution that allows the supermajority in Congress to fire the Supreme Court justices. So our party fired the Supreme Court justices when they got the majority. They fired the Attorney General, which I couldn't. I mean, in the States, the president appoints the Attorney General. Here is Congress. Congress elects the Attorney General. Congress fires the Attorney General. But you need 2/3 of Congress to fire an Attorney General.
And they did it.
So we got 75% of Congress.
But you stayed within the rules the whole time.
We have never not respected a single rule. That's also a narrative that they want to. But they cannot point out a single thing that was done by not respecting the rules that were written by them. Because the rules are written by people. It's not like, these rules were,
It's true.
These rules are not given by God. These rules were written by people. but still we respected all the rules that were written by them. And yeah, we gotta. I just saw an interview that the president of Costa Rica gave in Costa Rica, because he came also, like many other world leaders, he came to the inauguration. So they asked him over there in Costa Rica, and they said, "But don't you think that Bukele is like doing things that are not
kosher
within the constitutional limits that he has?" And this interview was today, earlier, and President of Costa Rica said, "Well, in a soccer game or in a football game, you have the rules and you have the score."
Yeah.
Right? And the rules are made so the score, will be like that. But sometimes you get
keeps it interesting.
Super score in one side, right? So are you angry at the rules or are you angry at the score? Because the president of El Salvador, the only thing he can be criticized for is to getting a huge score in his favor with the rules of the game that they lay out for him.
That is an interesting way to put that. I like that you can either be mad at the score or you can be mad at the rules. And it's interesting that they haven't really violated any of the rules that were laid out by their competitors. So this is, I think, where you get a lot of us conservatives in the US like to say that we want to win inside the rules, but a lot of times progressives bend the rules, break the rules, do whatever with the rules. They treat the rules like they don't exist. But nobody ever holds them to account for it, because to do so, they'll say, "Oh, well, you're being oppressive, or you're doing this or that, or, oh, poor me, I'm a victim." And we as conservatives always want to try and win using the rule. But when the rules culturally aren't being enforced at all, except for against your team, if the referee only ever red cards and yellow cards your team and just lets the other team like stab the people on the field and do whatever to the people on the field, like if you can do whatever you want and just ignore the rules on one side, and then the other side has all the rules enforced by the book, letter by letter, like winning is so difficult at that point. But the people have to be upset enough to let you win that way. And we're trying very hard. But look what they're doing to our candidate. We're trying to still play within those rules, and as soon as the rules evaporate to the point where they no longer function and we have to go outside the rules, things are going to get crazy. And I don't want them to. I want to still win using the rules. I want to play by the rules. I don't want to have to break them. So don't make us break them, please. Pretty please? I'm asking nice.
So, yes.
But it was enormously disruptive to the people who ran the country before you.
Of course.
Obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
Did you ever worry they would try and put you in jail?
Well, they did. Even when I was president. I mean even already being already in the presidency, they tried to impeach me. They say I wasn't. There's an article in the Constitution that says Congress can actually fire the president if he's not fit to lead.
So like a vote of no confidence?
They say that I wasn't fit to lead, and they tried to impeach me because of that. But there was such a, the people were like, they feared that the people would like,
So what advice
rise up against them or something.
Well, it's a fair concern given your majority.
Exactly.
What advice would you give to another former democratically elected leader seeking office who is facing jail time?
Not specific at all.
Anyone, just if there was.
I mean, if there was a way to stop the candidacy, then he's probably in trouble. But if there's no way to stop him from competing in the election, all the things that they do to him will just give him more votes, right?
Yeah, probably.
That seems to be happening.
Yeah, I mean, either you stop the candidacy, or you let him be.
Not that we're talking about anybody specific. Trump. Sorry, had a tickle in my throat. But yeah, you convicted. You made him a felon, and then Alex Soros goes on social media and says every Democrat needs to point out that he's a felon every opportunity you get. And you know what we say to that? Good. I'd rather elect a felon than the guy who's currently in office. Just say it. Like, shouldn't felons have rights too? Don't you guys always advocate for felon rights? Guys, why do you think that the people are gonna, oh, you know what? He's a felon now. Just kidding. Oh, no, I don't like him anymore. No, come on. Just be honest with yourself.
but just, hitting him you're making the greatest campaign ever. I mean,
do you
Great
think
ads.
they know that?
some of them, I think some of them do, but of course the ones that don't, or they think that, that's the problem with endogamous groups, right? Because they all, it's so great, yeah, let's do it. And, they're making a huge mistake.
Yeah, I think they are.
Huge mistake.
If you're a country like El Salvador, or really any other country in the hemisphere, including Canada, your eyes are on the United States because it's the dominant power.
Yes.
Obviously. But it puts you in a weird position if you're being criticized from the United States. So there's a congressman from Massachusetts, a pro-communist congressman called Jim McGovern, literally pro-communist, not an attack, just an observation, who attacked you the other day for daring to move a painting of Oscar Romero, who's a Catholic priest who was murdered here more than 40 years ago, in your airport, I think?
Yeah.
What did you make of that? It seemed like a pretty minute criticism, pretty small.
Yes, and we actually moved it to a nicer place in front.
Yeah.
It's not like, we moved it from a very nice place and we put it in some warehouse, or whatever, some place that nobody.
But what if you did? It's your country, no?
Well, of course, but but you can make the case as an art connoisseur that he didn't like, the place we put the painting. But the fact that he protested or he expressed his concern, his deep concern on Twitter and not, call. If he could have called here and said, "Hey, do you move the painting?"
Like,
no, it's right
put
here.
it somewhere nicer. It's
Mr.
fine.
Congressman. So of course he can even come and see it for himself. But of course he was doing an attack, right? So, but it backfired because first the painting was right in front, so just to move the camera, it was on the other side.
The dishonesty.
He misfired, but also the fact that a U.S. congressman is trying to micromanage where art is being displayed.
In El Salvador.
It's being displayed in another country.
Yeah.
Gives you an example
check
of how
yourself, bro.
out of touch they are.
Feels like colonialism to me a little bit.
Yes, and it comes from the Democratic Party, which you would guess when
The anti-colonial party.
Yes, yeah, but
at
the end it's like sometimes the
Say
guy
it.
that's called racist is not really the racist, right? Or the guy that is called colonialist
projection.
is not really the colonialist.
The
right?
projection.
Sometimes it's weird how narratives work sometimes.
Are you getting a lot of Americans moving here?
Yes. I mean, probably in numbers it won't be significant to you, but yes, you can see it. I mean, you can see it everywhere. And we're also getting something that's very meaningful to us, is that we're getting a lot of our diaspora, a lot of our immigrants, the people that emigrate El Salvador because of the war, or because of the gangs, or because of the economical issues that have always happened here. A lot of them are coming back.
Oh,
and there's a study made by the
good for you
IOM
guys.
and USAID. Sorry, I'll send you the link.
Yes.
There's a study made by the IOM and the USAID that says that 62% of Salvadorans living in the United States want to come back to live here.
Amazing.
62%.
That's amazing.
And 18% are already making plans to come. That's over 500,000 Salvadorans coming back. So that's super significant, because
that would be great for you guys.
We expelled them from their homes, right? Because of crime, because of a war, because of lack of opportunities. And the fact that they're coming back is the biggest proof that we're doing things the right way. We have a long way to go, but we're doing things the right way.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we have a lot of Americans, American-born Americans coming, but we have also a lot of Salvadoran Americans with American citizenships coming here.
Do you have the space?
Well, it has created a housing bubble, because we don't produce as much houses that are being bought right now. But that would create a temporary problem, which is the housing bubble. But then, which is not actually a bubble, it's just the offer and
finding its own level. Yeah.
So now, of course, construction companies know that the amount of houses they will build, they will sell them. So construction has become 20% of our GDP, and it's growing. So this is going to be a huge construction boom, and they have the clients, so it's not built in a bubble or speculation, But it feels like a bubble, but it's built on, you know, people coming back home.
Has any other head of state called you for advice on how to improve his country?
Yes.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, several. Some of them have said it in public, of course. And we have meetings, mostly security issues. We're talking with a lot of Latin American leaders. They have come, they have sent their security ministers to meet here with our security ministers.
I mean, and that makes the most sense, right? Latin American country definitely fixed a lot of their security problems. Why would another Latin American country not go to El Salvador and their leadership and be like, hey, bro, hermano, how'd you do it? Huh? How? Tell us how. Help us out. That actually makes a lot of sense. Go to one of your peers.
They have sent people to see our jail system, because sometimes people see our jail system and they try to compare to the United States jail system and say, oh, look, they're mean, they don't have gyms, they don't have Netflix. You know, but you shouldn't compare El Salvador's jail system with the US jail system. You should compare El Salvador's jail system with Latin American jail systems.
Yep.
So if you go and see most of Latin American countries, the jails are run by the gangs.
Yes, as they were here. I remember that.
Yes, they run. They had parties, prostitutes, strippers.
It was
drugs.
autonomous here. I mean, you had to get their permission to go in.
Yes, you have to get the permission to go in. They only have permission to get in food, medicine, but they control the jails. Not only in El Salvador, they do it in most of the Latin American countries.
That's
so
crazy.
Gangsters or narcos, they will control the jails, right? It's their operation. They even go out and back and get back. Yes. So we totally control that.
That's insane. I guess I didn't really watch the show Narcos, nor do I know a whole lot about Latin American jails, but that's crazy though. The gangs ran the jails. The government had to ask the permission of the gang to come into the jail, and they only allowed food and medicine, and then everything else was pretty much controlled by the criminal organization that controlled the jail. But the jail was full of criminals, but the was it just a house? Just like a big house party? Like what? That's weird.
And we have 100% control in our jail system. So Latin American countries look to our jail system and to see if they can fix their own. So we do a lot of cooperation in security issues, jails, army, training.
Do you know of
even more powerful in bigger countries? Of course, in Latin America.
Have you ever, you know a lot of heads of state because you are one, have you ever met a head of state who, when faced with a serious problem, a threat to his own country, would, in the middle of a cabinet meeting, pause and say a prayer?
I don't recall, but yeah, probably.
Do you know anyone who would do that, do you think?
Yes, probably. I don't recall right now, but
No, but that's just so far from the mindset of any leader I've ever interviewed. Anyone who would admit, I'm not sure what to do, let's ask God.
Yeah, probably not that common, but yeah, I would guess some leaders do it.
How long do you plan to stay president?
Yeah, 5 years. 5 years. That's as much as the Constitution allows me to.
Oh, there you go. Term limit.
Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, Tucker.
Wow. Guys, that was super interesting. I really enjoyed that. That was a nice perspective. I kind of wish, and maybe it's already happened and you can let me know down in the comments, but I kind of wish that Milei would sit down and do a more candid interview like this one. And maybe Tucker has that on his list to do. But I really enjoyed that perspective. That outsider perspective of how things are running here in the West and how things are running here in the United States was really, really interesting. And I'm really excited to hear for the people of El Salvador and for the people that left that there is so much interest in returning to El Salvador. That's wonderful. Because like I brought up earlier in the discussion, when all these countries are emptying themselves and a lot of those people are coming here, that brain drain on those countries has to make it difficult for those countries to thrive in the future. But if those people are willing to go back to their countries of origin and take that knowledge and that experience with them and help improve those countries, that actually is a great thing for those countries. So I pray for the future of El Salvador. I hope that you guys do well under Bukele. I don't know what else to say. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the people of Argentina that come through this channel and say hi and give it support. I wish success for everybody in the West and in the East. Like, I really wish that every country was just prosperous and that we could have just a little more peace and a little more God in the world. Thank you to those of you that made it to the end of this video. I greatly appreciate all of your support. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like it and leave a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this one, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the little bell icon so you can be notified when I upload additional content. If you have a recommendation for a future interview or a future topic or reaction that you want to see, please make sure you leave it in a comment below, as the majority of the content on this channel comes from recommendations from viewers just like you. Thank you very much. Make sure you check out all the links down in the description. Click on one or two of them or click on all of them and show your support. I look forward to seeing you around. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and bye for now. Go ahead and check out one of the links on the screen now to either subscribe to the channel and see the rest of the videos of the channel, or one of the carefully selected videos that you may wish to see that YouTube has used its algorithm to select for you.